Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, excellencies. Nobody's hearing me. Do we hear each other? Yes. Okay, allow me to present myself. I'm Nikola Ratkovic. I'm Chargé d'Affaires at the mission of the Republic of Serbia to UN in Geneva. And I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to participate this side event and this panel, which is very important and very crucial in many areas of our lives, which will be revealed in the next couple of hours and deliberations. So, as I said, it is my distinguished and personal pleasure to welcome you on the side and addressing remaining the contamination through the non-technical survey project. At the outset, I would like to warmly thank and welcome the Serbian Mine Action Center for this organization and of this important event, as well for its dedicated and highly professional work in this area. We'd also like to express our sincere appreciation for organizers and the UN 29 for providing the opportunity to bring forward the issue of remains highly relevant for many state parties. At the beginning, the Ottawa Convention stands as one of the pillars and the most important humanitarian disarmament instrument. Reflecting our shared commitment to protecting lives, restore livelihood, and ensure safe and sustainable communities. While significant progress has been achieved, I would say that there's still a lot of to work and to continue fulfilling the obligations under Article 5. If not only a legal responsibility, but a must and a moral imperative for us. In this context, I would like to say that the experience of the Republic of Serbia is very, very important in many areas and valuable practical insights. Having in mind that often take place in complex environment characterized by difficult access, incomplete and outdated information, and the need to reconcile legacy with the data and modern standards. Particularly, I would like to encourage, what do we have to encourage is these challenges can be overcome through strengthened international cooperation and effective partnership. The close collaboration between national authorities, donors, especially donors are very important, and experts organizations demonstrate the tangible impact of coordinating support. It is also highlights the importance of effective and sustainable national capacities. Saying about the donors, let me allow to underscore their very important role, that their condition support enable innovation, strengthen operational effectiveness, and help bridge remaining gaps. Without such partnership, the path toward fulfilling Article 5 obligations would be significantly more challenging. Dear colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that it is essential that we continue to share lessons learned, adapt to evolving challenges, and reinforce our collective efforts. The experience that we all have to be shared today serves not only as a national example, but as a contribution to the global mine action community. And at the closing, let us remain committed to our common goal, which is a world free of anti-personal mines, where communities can live in safely, and dignity environment. And with this, I will pass to my dear colleague beside. Thank you for attention.
Nicola, thank you very much for your opening words. I would like to introduce the rest of the panel to you. So we have Jelena here as the Assistant Director from the Serbian Mine Action Center, Anna from GICHD, who's been supporting the Mine Action Center with information management, and Gregor from ITF, the representative. My name is Helen Gray, and I've been working with the Serbian Mine Action Center as a non-technical survey advisor. We're quite briefly going to go through the situation of how we're trying to tackle the remaining land mine contamination under the jurisdiction of ESMAC, and so what the problem is, and how we're trying to resolve that. So first of all, I'll hand over to Jelena.
Thank you, Helen. Good afternoon to everyone. At the beginning, let me to introduce you with a process of addressing the remaining unknown mine contamination in the Republic of Serbia. So the Republic of Serbia, as Mr. Nicola mentioned, we are signed the Ottawa Convention. So at the end of the March, we submitted new extension request. So during the process of writing extension request, we had a collaboration closely with the ISU and the committee member. So we had a meeting with them, and that gave us a chance to explain in more details how we try to address these challenges which we faced in the municipality of Bujanovac, and we are really appreciated, and we are really gratitude to the ISU and their help during the process of writing extension request. So let me introduce you with the municipality of Bujanovac. It is located in the southern of Serbia. So there is 59 villages and 30 community council. So the population is ethnically diverse, primarily comprising Serbian and Albanian communities. The mine contamination originates from the conflict between 1999 and 2001-2002. Since the mines were laid by paramilitary groups, there is no classical minefields, but rather nuisance mine lines. So there is no specific patterns of laying mines in the ground. When we look the historical data, in the period from 2013, we had a different project of clearance of the mining and also technical survey. So we released the area over than 5 million, around 5 million square meters. So we found different type of AP and AT mines, abandoned in the weapons, and different UXO. So the conclusion was there is no any standard pattern for the mine contamination. After that, from 2019, local community started with reporting the explosion during the forest fire. So they recorded this explosion and shared with the Serbian Mine Action Center. Based on this available data, Mine Action Center developed a project of non-technical survey which comprise 5 areas. Since historical records of contamination are non-existing and the passage of the time has further reduced access to reliable eyewitness information, it is challenged to identify areas with direct evidence and to define the SHA and CHA. Deciding how to, during the process when we make a decision how to implement non-technical survey. So director of ESMAC, he decided to take ownership of the non-technical survey project and to build national capacities. Of course, all of this was supported with different stakeholders and donors. So Mrs. Helen Gray. Yes. Of course, the first was to ask how we can get the solution for these challenges. The first goal was to getting clarity on the remaining problem and conduct quality NTS to drive the planning of technical survey and clearance as required. How we manage that? So we saw that we need a local NTS team, so that was required. So it was also mixed nationality, gender balance. After we figure out what kind of team we need there, we also know that we have to be that team have to be trained to conduct NTS. If we want good results, we must have the quality of NTS. So we have to match the NTS competencies. Of course, there was also the cooperation with the local authorities. So we established local office and supporting all this process with the IMSMA core system. Multitude of approaches, bringing different international partners with targeted knowledge to relieve local team. This also was our goal. Also, we decided to implement NTS, non-intrusive, but we want all tech capacities. The output of non-technical survey will form the basis for targeted technical survey project to continue the evidence gathering process so that future clearance is as efficient as possible. So during this whole process, we've been working closely with Helen Gray, who supported us as NTS advisor. So Helen, please.
Thank you very much, Jelena. The first thing I'd like to emphasize is how important national ownership is to this project. As Jelena has outlined, this is a municipality where it's been difficult to access information. So there has been information coming out that there is contamination, but really being able to access that has been quite difficult. And ESMAC has worked really, really hard over the last years to build a fantastic relationship with the local mayor. Through the local mayor, they have been given a local regional office to work out on, and the mayor has supported ESMAC with the identification of the most suitable people to work in an NTS team. So these are people that are from the area, have access to the communities, although they don't have a mine action background. So that's the capacity we've been having to build locally, but we now have the right people in place to do the job, so we just now need to train them on doing non-technical survey. I should also say Ali, who is the head of our NTS team, he has a long history within the municipality of Buenovice. He's been the head of the emergency response, and so he just has a fantastic collection of contacts right across the municipality and a historical knowledge, which is really helping us bring in information and access people that previously have not been comfortable to come forwards. So how have we dealt with this? The first thing we wanted to do was to figure out what is the process that we're going to use for non-technical survey. How are we going to achieve it? How are we going to make sure that we've achieved all reasonable effort to identify the remaining contamination within Buenovice? And how are we also going to disaggregate between anti-personnel mine contamination and UXO contamination, because that's been quite confusing, and I think it's going to be a challenge. For your interest, we have our developed process map that went through many, many variations and drafts. There's copies on the side table there if anybody would like to take a closer look. So we've developed this by sitting with the team from ESMAC in the headquarters and also working with the locally recruited team to discuss how are we going to do the job? How are we going to make sure that we find everything and that this process maps reflects what we're actually going to do in reality, and also documents what forms we need, what forms already existed, what forms need to be developed, and Anna will cover that a little bit more in detail. So by developing the process map, we use this as the foundation to make a new non-technical survey SOP, and this is being used as the basis of our training. So this has been running in parallel with the training that I'll talk about soon. So it really has been a collaborative approach, and this is a document we don't want to have sitting in a drawer, but this is a document that is driving how we're working and what we're recording. So what we've decided to do is to take a community by community approach. If you've been in the previous side event covering the completion process in Sri Lanka, this is a very similar methodology, and it was also used very successfully in Mozambique to track their progress towards the Article 5 completion. So at the moment, we're going to be using a traffic light map to show the progress of non-technical survey, but it's also going to be able to, as we move into phase 2 and 3, track the progress of technical survey and completion until we get to a point where all reasonable effort to define and then remove any remaining threats of anti-personnel mines has been done in each community, and we have a declaration from the community council president saying the job is done. Jelena mentioned that at the beginning of the project, there was information from 5 areas that there may be either a confirmed or suspect hazardous area. However, as we've started this process, we've already identified another 11 hazard claims. And this really justifies the approach we're taking, which is this comprehensive community by community approach, so that we don't miss any contamination. If we had just targeted NTS to those initial 5 areas, we would have missed this new information. So you can see here on the map, we have our initial result and the status where we're coming to now, and then hopefully, as you saw in, as you may have seen in the Sri Lankan one, we're going to start turning this map green as we move towards completion and success. It is really exciting that we're now getting to access communities that were very difficult to speak to in the last few years. We're starting with the office in Bujanovec. We're getting phone calls and we're getting walk-ins off the street from people who have information and are wanting to share it. Some of these are calls that are even coming from outside of Serbia, so people who no longer live there have information, may not be comfortable to come and show it, but have been able to talk to the team and say, you know, I was in the paramilitary, I laid the mines, and this is where you should go and look. And all of this information is being used to target our future technical survey and clearance as we move on. And there's already 3, nearly 4 technical survey projects in development that are going to start complementing the non-technical survey as we move forward. So how are we managing to do this? So we've been, as I said, this is a new non-technical survey project being taken on by the Mine Action Centre, with them taking the lead. So we've started with a training of trainers for all the headquarters staff, covering the skills, but also working on the technology. So how to use Survey 123, how to use IMSMA Core. We've been running around with GPSs and compasses, but also, working on our soft skills, interview techniques, the whole plethora of work. Also working very much with the Belgrade team on how they design training exercises for the field team so that they can build their confidence and test their skills, and using the ESMAC headquarters team's knowledge of contamination within Serbia to make realistic scenarios to train the local people. So that's been our first step, was training of trainers. And then we've been doing direct training of the NTS field team from Bionovic, where Anna and I have been supporting the training that has been delivered primarily by ESMAC staff. So using their knowledge, but with a little bit of outside support. We've also had additional training from the university on the use of drones, and I'll talk a bit more about that. We brought in the Red Cross to make sure that all of the field personnel had appropriate first aid training, and this has all been in line with the new IMAS competencies. It's good to understand that this training has not just been done in one place. So we've been using the facilities at the ESMAC Training Center just outside of Belgrade, where you have classroom facilities as well as outside training areas. And we've been taking approach which has been building, so practice, demonstration, practice, and then building up people's skills. So back in November, we did an accreditation process in the training school, but this followed earlier training in the training school, but also multiple field exercises and practices to make sure that people were ready. So in November, the NTS team had to complete several fairly complicated NTS scenarios to demonstrate that they were ready to work as a team in the field and could operate in accordance with our SOP and demonstrate that they had met the IMAS 810 NTS competencies. So we're really trying to follow best practice. They've now been out in the field. There's been initially a focus on desk assessment, but you've already heard that they've identified 11 sites, and that some of this information is already being used to set up targeted technical survey projects. Explosive ordnance risk education within communities is also being used to help access key informants. So it's a slowly approach, but we're really trying to build confidence and find the right people with the best information. I'd now like to hand over to Anna, and she can talk a bit more in detail about information management. Would you like the clicker of power?
Thank you so much, Helen. Yes, so my name is Anna Payuk, and I'm an IM advisor at the GICHD, so working on the implementation of IMSMA Core. I know that most of you are aware, but just so we are all on the same page, so IMSMA is an information management system for mine action, and IMSMA Core is the latest version of it, built on the technology developed by Esri, and it's really to bring the best GIS technologies to the national authorities. So we started to work with ESMAC back in 2023. But at the start of the NTS project, we had mainly worked on data migration and less on workflow. So IMSMA Core was not used actively in Serbia. Indeed, and I will come back to it later, SMAC did not have previously an information management system. So data was in many places and many formats, and we had to gather all of that in one centralized place. But thankfully, having done all of this data migration work previously allowed us to have a better foundation for the start of the project. So really, this project on the IM side was really an opportunity to start to use the technology actively, but also to really integrate information management from the start. So here on the slide, you can see a few different ways in which we customized IMSMACOR for the Serbian needs. So you have example of automatic reports both in English and Serbian, example of dashboard, web app, website for easy access, but also training tool allowing everyone to get more familiar with the system. So now that I've talked about the system, I want to talk a little bit about data structure. At the same time as the process map that you have on the table over there was developed, we started to identify the different forms needed for the project. And we really wanted to have an iterative approach. So we wanted to find what was the data being needed by SMAC, but also we wanted to follow IMAS, we wanted to follow best practices and minimum data requirements. So an example of the way we adapted to the international needs, to the Serbian need, was, for example, the EORI form. For those of you familiar, usually EORI is a separate activities that we do, and we have a separate form for it. In the context of Serbia, it made more sense to integrate it in an activity report form. So by the end of the development, we had 6 forms: an activity report, a spot task, an accident, an NTS, a hazard, and an NTS declaration. So those online forms were, of course, developed in both English and Serbian, and it really enabled Serbia to have not only faster, but automatic data exchange and reporting between the field and the HQ office in Belgrade. So as mentioned, this was really the first time for Serbia to use this technology for workflows. So from data collection, previously on paper, to data validation and visualization online. So both the field team and the HQ staff had to be trained on IMSMACOR. As you can see on the picture, we have very confused face when seeing the new tools for the first time. But information management needs to be strict in terms of data, but also needs to be adapted to the needs on the ground. So it's really a balance act between data requirements and ease of use. So to try to find that equilibrium, the integration of IM into the operational training that Helen mentioned was really key. So we could directly test the system on the ground in real-life circumstances and adapt it as needed. So personally, it was my first time where I was updating database in the middle of summer, in the middle of a field, and trying to get it right. But it was really this integration of training and feedback and having flexibility that was key to ensure the success of the system. Now that I've talked about system and structure, I want to highlight a few ways we could adapt different tools to meet different needs. So as mentioned, this was a new team doing NTS for the first time, and we wanted to find a way to support them remotely. So a way we did that was to use online map instead of paper map for the desk assessment phase. So that's the one you can see on the left side of the screen. So it was really allowing both the Serbian HQ team, but also Helen and I being remotely to support their operation and to support the process. Another solution we found was just to link them to existing tools. Usually in Mine Action and in many sectors, there are resources available, but we just don't know it's there, right? So one solution we used was a satellite imagery wayback tool, and it's just a tool that allows anyone via a browser to look at free satellite imagery and to do comparison between the years, and that can really help us to understand first the historical development since the foundation, the laying of the mines, but also to identify potential evidence. However, those satellite imagery have a low resolution. So we needed really to zoom in specific areas, in areas that are really hard to access. For example, we have mountain with very high vegetation, no roads to access them. And for that, we used, SMAC got in contact with the Academia of Niš to really use their drone capacities. And of course, as IM is all about centralizing data, we made sure to centralize and have those results into IMSMACOR. And it's really nice to see because we already are using the result of these drones to identify potential mines, but also dangerous area. We can see evidence of trenches and of craters. So that can really help us bring all of those information together. Something else we're also currently looking at is to see if we can develop some tools to automatically detect dangerous area using, for example, AI and machine learning. So this was just to show a few examples of, yes, we have access to advanced technology, let's just adapt it to what we need on the ground. But I also want to highlight that information management is not only about fancy next technology and looking forward. It's really also looking on what we have currently, right? Even if it is imperfect, we already have some data. We already know what's been happening in the area. So we've done a huge work with SMAC to look at their historical record. We found some old paper in some basements that we had to digitalize. And we also, you can see on the slide here, some example of imperfect polygon that we had to manually clean to make sense of them. But it was not only about finding and digitalizing those records, it was also about understanding them. And once again, we could use the local knowledge and the Academia of Niche to help us, because one of our main challenges was a coordinate system used. For those of you familiar with the region, it was a Gauss-Kruger system that was used in former Yugoslavia. And we really need to have local knowledge in how to convert them in something that made sense. The NTS team also did an amazing job at finding old spot task records. But as you can see on the little Excel table at the bottom, of course, it was imperfect. It was in many coordinate systems, in many formats. And we really tried our best to make sense of it because we have data, we need to put it somewhere. And actually, on the previous map, on the desk assessment map, we actually now have all of those spot task data in our system. So this is all for me, but I really wanted to highlight that we had close cooperation with SMAC, and integration of IM early in the process made it all successful. Now I'm handing over to Gregor.
Thank you very much. My name is Gregor Sanchanin. I come from ITF Enhancing Human Security, which is an organization based in Slovenia. Basically, we work with the mine action centers, with the governments on the strategic level in one segment, and in the second we work with the international governments, that means donors related to the funding of the projects. The story of ITF and the Republic of Serbia and the SMAC, so Serbia Mine Action Center, goes back a long way from the initial start, and I think day one, that was in 2002 or 3, where ITF supported the process of establishing the initial stages of the trainings and all the phases that led to what we have now. Along the way, there was many ups and downs. There was a lot of talk of that the mine action programs, that the donor fundings are never a straight line. There's many curves, there's ups and downs, and ITF basically ensures, as much as that is possible and reasonable and accountable and evidence-based, that the mine action programs go in a continuous pace, and that all the relevant problems and goals are addressed as much as realistically possible, of course. There was a lot of talk about local ownership, international engagement in the mine action programs. So, like I said, over the 25 years with SMAC, and the same goes for this project, which is very specific. We've always discussed a lot year on year to find the best modus, and you can see on the slide, these are the basic components that we apply always and as much as possible. So the percentage and the strength of these components varies, of course, based on the local specifics, based on the state specifics, and based on the problem specifics, where the problem stems from. Before we have all that was mentioned, and before we were able to manage the team that we have now, and this is only just a few people, because the SMAC has a lot of superb colleagues that work in the field, that supply us with the information and the tools that we require for our joint work. Of course, everything is done jointly and together, and which was topped on the top of everything, of course, also the distinguished Mr. Ratkovic gave the honor to just show the dedication of the Serbia to address all the relevant mine action and other problems. So the problems, like we said, we thought dealing with the donors and working with the donors that basically with the mines in Serbia we are done in the period of 2003 and up to 2009, where the minefields that were known at the time were demined on the three borders, so with Croatia and with Serbia. But then, and then we addressed other problems. As you know, Serbia has multi-layer problem. It's mines, it's cluster, it's big aerial bombs, it's BAC that we come to in the strategically later time. But some then 10 years later, so new information, like Jelena said, appeared. And at the time, we as ITF thought that the mine action basically was done donor-wise many years ago. But of course, that was not the case as we saw, which is now also the evidence-based fact. So basically, even though that we work with SMAC on the strategic level, meaning ensure the donors, ensure the funding, this program is very much specific in one segment, and that is that Serbia, so the government of Serbia funds the clearance projects, not only the operational costs of the SMAC and all the administrative and Ottawa related obligations, but also each year the Serbian government allocates a donation through ITF, which is then joined with other donors for the clearance itself, so the field activities. And in this segment, also this project, of course, that is something, that is a process that we discuss. We jointly make the plans, what we're going to do each next year, how we're going to go about various donors, who's going to fund what. So this project specifically is funded by the Republic of Serbia through ITF and is co-funded by the United States of America through ITF as well. That is on the micro level. On the micro level, many discussions, like Helen said, looking at the chart, there was many meetings, how to create the ways of operating, gaining information, addressing the communities, which is, the area is very, very specific, very troubled area, very secluded area. The history of the problem you can read yourself. It's known. So we talked a few years with the SMAC how to address which modus to apply in order that we jointly open up the communities, open up each various village and address like a male-female population, which is very specific, the relations, younger generations which knew nothing about the problem. The older generation, how to basically get information, because there's a quite substantial emigration. So the people, they're moving out. So how to get everything that's relevant from 20 years ago. So the way that we slowly through talks, and it's proven the best, is that we have someone, so us from Slovenia, that's coming to the community. So we have the SMAC as the national, of course, authority, and I'm saying again, the area is Serbian and Albanian populated. So, and the specifics are very different of the culture, but they have the same needs. So, and we address their needs. That is our goal. So we have Helen as the NTS advisor, she comes from Scotland. She has her own approach to the population. Anna, she comes from Switzerland, from Geneva. She has her own approach. So we had many meetings, which maybe one would thought would not be necessary, but they were highly necessary with the mayor, with the villagers, so the population, that slowly through time in the phase one, like Helen said, people were coming out to us that they were ensured that they will not be prosecuted. That is not the goal. So the goal is just to get as much information for their own benefit, of course, and the future generations. So there was many meetings, many talks that we reached this point, okay? So phase one, that we all know now, and that is evidence-based. And we can shift now to the second slide. So phase one, like I said, there was a long wait, there were many donors, and we, as ITF, have to deal with the donor fatigue, which is the famous phrase, because in the beginning and the middle section sort of almost every mine action program is very interesting for the donors. They participate, they see themselves as supporting, and then slowly when we reach the final phases, there is always the problem how to fund the final stages. Luckily, with the partnerships that ITF has over, like I said, the 25 years, international donors and the donors that we, and again, I'm saying evidence-based, and that also needs to be supported by the state itself. So that is why I said specifically, I thank Mr. Ratkovic that always the international donors, they always would like to see the participation of the state itself. Whether that be financially is great, but if that's not possible on the declaratory level, that the state stands behind, in the international environment, behind the program that is done. I can say we have a fantastic support both in the diplomatic level and in the financial level, of course, from Serbia, and that is a partnership that is recognized by many donors. And in the last phase like that we have now, specifically the US is very sensitive to this partnership, and in the final stages also interesting. For the last many years we have the Republic of Korea, so South Korea, that supports the mine action program, and that is basically the trio that we have right now. But again, I have to say, so we know now that the continuation of the NTS goes now into phase 2, which is basically going to be the major intensity phase, let's say. The phase 3, which comes after, I'm pretty confident will be sort of the fade out and the closing segment. And why is this important for us as ITF on the strategic level? Because stemming from now the evidence base, we also talked about when does information become evidence, you know, and there is the component of the trust, of the multi-layer work in the villages and on the micro level, so on the high level strategically, is that we as ITF, we can be provided with the project for clearance, for technical survey, for actual targeted removal of the mines of UXO, so whatever is there, which we can then use for the purpose that is our basically main goal, to ensure the funding for the clearance itself, because all our work, all our talks and meeting and years of preparation are pointless to a certain degree, of course, if we don't close that down with the actual clearance and removal of the problem. So again, okay, I was maybe just a bit longer. I just wanted to appreciate all our years of work, how we came about this very specific and unique, and I would say at least program, and it's a pleasure working with you, and we're looking very much forward to strive to ensure the funding for the clearance. That is the goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregor. So you getting us to the conclusion, and you already mentioned, so you already tickled with our lesson learned. So on this slide, you can see that we have gathered them in three main categories: people, trust, and capacities. So my action is not primarily about technologies and statistics. It is fundamentally people-centered. Our effectiveness depends on the two pillars: trust and skills. So without community trust, even the best procedure fail to protect lives. Without trained, confident teams, trust cannot be sustained. We must therefore invest equally in building a relationship and in the strengthening capacities. So trust is built over time. So we have to be patient. Just don't forget that with building trust, we have to be patient. So that also means communicating clearly with local authorities and communities that our objective, as Helen mentioned, is not to punish someone or to catch people, but to get things right, to reduce harm and restore safe access to land. Messaging must be consistent, inclusive, and delivered through trusted local channels. Process clarity drives quality. Begin with a process map, so the map, as Helen explained, should reflect the real situation on the field. Based on that, we have to develop SOPs, and that have to be supported by IM system. So the training of trainers was really good approach, because that build a reliable relationship between NTS team and head office. So also, let me to go with the interviews. So interviews should be visual materials that clearly separate explosive ordinance. So what that means, that we had a problem with to recognize what is mine, what is UXO. So we need to have clear recognition, and this means we have to improve the skills of the NTS team, and of course to improve the knowledge of communities who will give us the real information. So we integrate EORI session also in the local community. We do that in Serbian and Albanian language. So we want to approach to all, from community leaders to every girl, boys, woman, and man, and they will, to be sure that they will understand message. So please, oh, thank you. So the next lesson learned, it was about data, information management, and analysis. So deep understanding of and use of historical data is essential. Information management is about using existing tools effectively. So as Anna mentioned, desk assessment requires significant effort to clean, structure, and validate information. So we realized that desk assessment is really important step during the NTS. And also there is important to clear differentiation between UXO and mines. So the key message is strong outcomes depends on making sense of complex, imperfect data. And the last one, lesson learned, I think the key message here can be effective mine action relies on well-designed systems that adapt and leverage partnership. So let's be clear, collaboration is not optional, it is strategic. Partner with a university, with academia to analyze and to integrate UAV solution where appropriate. Work closely with ITF, with the GICHD, so with the competent people who have years of experience of different implementation of NTS, as we have Helen, was crucial to build national capacities. So please don't forget that we also need flexibility of National Mine Action Center. So if we are flexible as a national authority, we can help shape adaptive future projects which will be implemented in the future. So our expertise has shown that external experience can be crucial in bringing good practices which can be adapted to the specific country context. So if I miss something, Helen, please.
Thank you so much, everybody. I know we're getting to the end of the time, but does anybody have any questions for us? All happy? Fantastic. Okay, thank you. You had a question? No. Okay, thank you so much for your attention. I would very much like to thank the panel again for all of their kind words. Again, I would like to thank the Serbian government and the United States of America through ITF for making this project possible. If you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. If you're interested in the process map, there's some printed out on the sides there. Again, bon weekend. Hope that it's not been too tiring over the last couple of days with all of the meetings, and thank you so much.